Congratulations to the future Mrs. Thompson. The words echoed through the luxurious ballroom of the Ritz-Carlton as I watched the bustling preparations for my eldest daughter, Emily's wedding. Emily, my pride, my reflection, or so I believed for the past 25 years. Today she was getting married, and I, Michael Andrews, successful neurosurgeon, was ready to spend a fortune to make this day perfect. The festive buzz grew louder as guests gathered in groups, exchanging pleasantries and compliments. I stood by the enormous window, absently adjusting my impeccably fitted Tom Ford tuxedo, when I caught sight of my wife Ashley in the glass of reflection. She was engaged in an animated conversation with Brian, my best friend since our university days. Something about their posture seemed off. They stood too close, their smiles too intimate. Can you believe he still doesn't suspect a thing? My wife's hushed voice drifted to me as I took a step in their direction. Quiet, darling. Brian placed his hand on her shoulder in what might have passed for a friendly gesture if not for his gaze. Today's not the time. I froze, feeling my familiar world beginning to crumble. 25 years of marriage, 4 children, best friend. Everything suddenly felt fragile, unreal. When is the time, Brian? Ashley's voice carried an unusual edge. After he pays for this damn wedding, or when the youngest goes to college. How long do we keep pretending? Mom. Emily's voice rang out so unexpectedly that everyone flinched. My daughter stood a few steps away, beautiful in her wedding dress, horror frozen on her face. Emily, sweetheart. Ashley stepped toward our daughter, but she recoiled. I heard. I heard everything. Her voice trembled. What are you talking about? What do you mean by pretending? I watched the scene as if from a distance. My brain, accustomed to the most complex surgeries and split-second decisions, refused to process what was happening. But then Brian did something he shouldn't have. He laughed. You know what? Maybe it's good that everything's coming out today. He swept his gaze across the guests gathering around. I'm tired of playing the role of loving godfather. It's time everyone knew the truth. What truth? My voice sounded surprisingly calm. That you're not the father of your children, Michael. Not a single one of them. The silence that followed these words was deafening. I stared at Ashley, at her trembling lips, at Emily's pale face, at Brian's smug smirk. 25 years of lies condensed into a single sentence. Dad. Emily stepped toward me, but I raised my hand, stopping her. How long? This question was directed at Ashley. From the very beginning, she wouldn't meet my eyes. After the doctors said you couldn't have children. Remember that treatment? Brian, he offered to help. At first, it was supposed to be just once, just for the first child. But then you decided I was good enough to bankroll your happiness. There were no emotions in my voice, only the cold detachment I usually reserve for my most challenging surgeries. Michael, you don't understand. Brian stepped forward. We never meant to hurt you. You were so happy with the children. Shut up. It came out so quietly that many didn't even hear. But Brian stopped mid-sentence. At that moment, I noticed my other children entering the hall. Jason, my 19-year-old son, always such a confident medical student, now looked lost. Behind him, 17-year-old Sophia, clutching the hand of 15-year-old Ethan. Their faces. God, how'd I never noticed? They were carbon copies of Brian, the same features, the same eye shape. Did you know? I looked at the children. All this time, did you know? Jason stepped forward, his shoulders slumped. Mom told us 2 years ago, when I got into med school. She said it would be more honest. More honest? I felt something breaking inside. Was it more honest to lie to me for 25 years? To let me love you, raise you, give you my entire life? Dad, please. Sophia stepped toward me, but I backed away. Don't call me that. I'm not your father. As it turns out. You'll always be our father, Emily cried out. She stood in her wedding dress, tears streaming down her face, ruining her perfect makeup. What difference does blood make? The difference, my voice remained eerily calm, despite the hurricane raging inside, is that each of you, every day of your life, looked me in the eye and lied. Even you, Emily, especially you, allowing me to walk you down the aisle knowing the truth. Michael, Ashley tried to take my hand. We can discuss everything. Find a way. A way. I finally let the anger break through. What way, Ashley? You didn't just cheat on me. You stole 25 years of my life. Made me love children who were never mine. Turned my life into a farce. Oh, stop playing the victim. Brian stepped forward. You got a perfect family, social respect, and ideal life. For which I paid. I met his eyes. Every college tuition, every car for the teenagers, every family vacation. I paid for it all while you were sleeping with my wife and fathering children who were registered under my name. Ethan, my youngest, no, Brian's youngest son, burst into tears. Sophie embraced him, trying to calm him down. Jason stood with his head bowed, his hands clenched into fists. The wedding is canceled. I swept my gaze across the gathered guests who were watching the unfolding drama in horror. I apologize for the inconvenience. I don't think there's anything left to celebrate. No, Emily grabbed my arm. Dad, please, don't do this. It's my day. Your day began with a lie and will end with the truth. I carefully freed my hand. Ask your real father to pay for a new ceremony. I'm sure he'll find a way. I headed for the exit, feeling hundreds of eyes on me. Ashley was shouting something after me. The children were crying. Guests were whispering. But inside me, a plan was already forming. A plan that would turn their perfect life into hell, just as they had turned mine into hell. Once outside, I pulled out my phone and dialed. David, remember you said you knew something about Brian's financial dealings? Care to elaborate? The next 3 days turned into a whirlwind of events. I didn't return home, staying at a hotel on the other side of town. My phone was exploding with calls and messages, but I only responded to David. Each day brought new details of betrayal. Michael, this is even worse than we thought. David's voice sounded tired. Brian used your name and reputation to attract investors. Half of his clients are your former patients. He literally sold their trust in you. I sat in the hotel room, looking out at nighttime Boston. A glass of whiskey sat untouched. I needed a clear head. How much? My voice was hoarse. Millions. And it's all built on pyramid schemes. When this comes out, there was a knock at the door. Jason stood there, pale and gaunt. Dad, Dr. Andrews. He stumbled, unsure what to call me now. Can I come in? I silently stepped aside, letting him enter. Jason walked into the room, stopping by the window, exactly where I had been standing a minute ago. I need to explain, he began. When Mom told us the truth, I wanted to tell you, really wanted to, but she convinced us it would destroy the family. And now, I look at his profile, so similar to Brian's. Isn't the family destroyed now? On dropping out of medical school, he suddenly said, I can't keep studying on money from a man I betrayed. Nonsense. I poured myself water. You will study and become a good doctor, because it's your calling, not my legacy. He turned to me, tears in his eyes. Why are you so calm? Why aren't you screaming? Why don't you hate us? Because hate is a luxury, Jason, and I have work to do. The next day, Sophia came. She sat on the edge of the chair, crumpling a tissue in her hands. Mom said you're filing for divorce, she spoke quietly, staring at the floor, and that you'll take everything. The house, the accounts, even Ethan's college trust fund. What did she say about the money she and Brian stole from my patients? Sophia raised her head. What? I showed her the documents David had prepared. Schemes, accounts, evidence of years of manipulation. Her face grew increasingly pale. God, they used your name? Your reputation. Funny, isn't it? They didn't just steal my life. They turned my name into an instrument of fraud. Emily came last, still in her wedding dress, with smeared makeup. I postponed the wedding. She sank into the chair, mechanically smoothing the dress folds. To next month, at a different venue. Will you come? Why? To play the role of proud father again. No, she jumped up. Because you are my father. 25 years of love and care can't be a lie, but they were built on lies. I met her eyes. On lies you've been supporting for the past 2 years. She broke down crying, covering her face with her hands. What do we do? How do we fix this? We don't. I walked to the window. But you can make a choice right now. Help me restore justice or continue living in lies. What are you talking about? Tomorrow, I'm filing reports with the police and SEC. Brian will answer for every dollar stolen from my patients, and you need to decide whose side you're on. Ethan never came. The youngest, he had always been closer to Brian. Perhaps he intuitively felt the blood connection, or maybe he had just learned to live with lies better than the others. That evening, Ashley called. Michael, we need to talk. I'm at your door. I had opened it. She looked a decade older, no makeup, wearing simple clothes instead of her usual designer outfits. Why did you come? Brian's panicking. She walked in without waiting for an invitation. Says you're digging into his business, threatening everything he built. What he built? I laughed bitterly. On my name? On my patient's trust. We can work this out, she sat down, automatically fixing her hair. The divorce, property division. You'll get compensation. Compensation? I felt cold fury rising inside. For what exactly? The stolen years? The lies? For raising someone else's children? They love you. She leaned forward. Isn't that enough? No, Ashley, it's not enough. Because that love, like everything else in our life, was built on lies. What do you want? Her voice trembled. Truth and justice. Michael, please. She stood up, trying to come closer. Think about the children, their future, if you destroy Brian's business. I've thought about everything. I pulled out my phone and played a recording. Brian's voice filled the room. Of course, I used his name. That surgeon idiot was the perfect cover. Who would suspect a respected doctor of financial fraud? And his patients, they brought money without even reading the documents, just because they trusted him. Ashley turned pale. Where did you get this? Doesn't matter. What matters is that tomorrow this recording will be with the feds, along with evidence of all his schemes. You won't do this, she shook her head. You're not like that. Not anymore, I smiled. You and Brian worked hard to change me. And the children? What happens to them when their real father goes to prison? What happened to me when I learned I'd spent 25 years raising someone else's children? I walked to the window. Every betrayal has a price, Ashley. Time to pay the bills. We could start over. Her voice turned soft, seductive. You, me, the children. Forget all this like a bad dream. I turned to face her. You know what's the worst part? I really loved you. All of you. Even now, knowing the truth, part of me still loves those children I thought were mine. But there are things more important than love, like justice. You'll regret this. She stood up, and her face changed, becoming hard and unfamiliar. I already do. I opened the door. I regret 25 years of lies, and not uncovering the truth sooner. When the door closed behind her, I dialed David's number. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Have your FBI friends ready. Sure about this. Sympathy rang in his voice. More than ever. Time to show them what happens to traitors. The morning began with local news headlines. Major financial scandal in Boston. Prominent consultant charged with fraud. A light broker used famous surgeon's name to defraud investors. I watched Brian's arrest from my office window at the clinic. Federal agents took him right at his office entrance, under camera flashes and shouting journalists. His face, usually radiating confidence, now showed only fear and confusion. Dr. Andrews, David stood beside me. They found everything. Every forged document, every stolen dollar. He used your signature on dozens of contracts. How many victims in total? Over 300 investors. Most of them, your former patients or their relatives. There was a knock at the door. Jason stood there, pale but determined. I saw the news. He entered the office. Is it true about the fraud? Yes. Your real father turned out to be not just a traitor, but a criminal. Jason clenched his fists. He called yesterday, asked for bail money, said if I was really his son, I should help. And what did you say? That my father is the one who raised me, not the one who betrayed everyone around him. I felt something tighten in my chest. For the first time in these days, my eyes stung. Thank you, son. The word escaped on its own. That's not all. Jason straightened up. Emily, Sophia, and I were ready to testify about how he used your name, how he made us keep quiet, everything. At that moment, Ashley practically flew into the office. Her usually impeccable appearance was disheveled, messy hair, eyes red from crying. How could you? She lunged at me. You destroyed everything. It froze all accounts, seized the cars, sealed the house. No, Ashley, I looked at her calmly. You and Brian destroyed everything. 25 years ago, when you decided you could build your happiness on lies. But the children have a choice. I nodded toward Jason. They can choose truth, or continue living in lies like you. Quick footsteps sounded in the corridor. Two FBI agents entered the office. Mrs. Andrews, the senior agent, showed his badge. We need to ask you some questions about your involvement in Mr. Foster's fraudulent schemes. Ashley turned pale. Michael, please. You can't do this to me. I'm not doing anything, Ashley. This is the law and justice. After the agents led her away, Jason turned to me. What now? Now, I look out the window where journalists had gathered. Now we start living for real, without lies. The following weeks turned into a whirlwind of events. Brian's trial became headline news. Each day brought new details of his schemes. Ashley was also charged as an accomplice. She knew about her husband's crimes and helped hide the income. Dr. Andrews, a soft female voice distracted me from reading another court document. Do you have a minute? I looked up. Samantha Gray, a Harvard psychology professor, stood in my office doorway. She had consulted some of my patients after complex surgeries. Of course, Samantha. Come in. I heard about what happened. She sat across from me, her brown eyes showing genuine sympathy. How are you holding up? Honestly, I don't know. I leaned back in my chair. 25 years of life turned out to be a lie. Sometimes I think it's just a bad dream. And the children? Jason and Emily are on my side. Sophie is trying to stay neutral. Ethan. I paused, choosing my words. Ethan chose Brian. That's his right, Samantha smiled gently. But you know what? The fact that you gave them the right to choose, that already shows what kind of father you really are. That evening, we had dinner together for the first time. Just a conversation between two adults who understand the value of words and actions. She didn't try to pity me or give advice. She just listened. A week later, Emily finally had her wedding. A modest affair with an intimate gathering. I walked her down the aisle, and this time, everything was real. Thank you for not refusing, she whispered as we danced at the reception. I know how hard this is for you. You're my daughter. I looked into her eyes, so similar to Brian's. Not by blood, but by love. And that matters more. Sophia came to my clinic a month after Emily's wedding. I applied to medical school, she said, fidgeting with the hem of her blouse. I want to become a neurosurgeon, like you. Why? Because you showed me what real strength means. Not the kind built on lies and manipulation, but the kind that comes from being honest with yourself and others. Jason continued his medical studies. Every week we met for lunch, discussing complex cases and new techniques. Blood relation had ceased to matter. We were connected by something greater. Only Ethan remained distant. He visited Brian in prison, wrote letters, tried to organize a defense campaign. I didn't interfere. Everyone has their own path to truth. You know, Samantha told me 6 months later as we walked through an autumn park. Sometimes you need to lose a fake life to find a real one. I took her hand, feeling its warmth and support. And sometimes you need to go through betrayal to understand the value of loyalty. Brian got 15 years. Ashley, probation and community service. I filed for divorce and waived all claims to joint property. I didn't need anything that would remind me of a life built on lies. Do you regret it? Jason asked me at his graduation when he received his diploma with honors. What? Exposing the truth, destroying what seemed like a perfect family. I look at Samantha sitting in the front row, at Emily with her husband, at Sophia in her intern's white coat, even at Ethan, who had come to a family event for the first time in a long while. No, I replied. Truth is always better than beautiful lies, even if it hurts. 2 years later, San Francisco. The ocean breeze stirs the curtains in our new home. I stand on the terrace, watching the sun slowly sink into the Pacific. Behind me, noise and laughter. Samantha is setting the table for a family dinner. Today is special. For the first time in a long while, all the children are gathering. Emily flew in from Boston with news of her pregnancy. Sophia took a day off from her internship. She was accepted into Stanford Medical's neurosurgery program. Jason is preparing to defend his doctoral thesis. And even Ethan. Ethan finally found the strength to acknowledge the truth. I got a letter from him, he told me this morning, looking at the ocean. From Brian. He admitted he used all of us, even his own children. He's asking for forgiveness, but, but I realized I can't forgive him, not after how he destroyed the life of the man who was really our father. I hugged him, feeling his shoulders trembling. For the first time in 2 years, he allowed himself to be just a son, not a hostage to genetic truth. Samantha comes out to the terrace, her eyes glowing with warmth. Dinner's ready. The children are waiting. The dining room is warm and lively. Emily shows her first ultrasound. Sophia argues with Jason about the advantages of different surgical techniques. Ethan talks about his plans to apply to law school. A normal family dinner. A real one. You know, Samantha tells me later when we're alone, they chose you. Not out of duty or pity. Simply because you're their real father. And I chose truth. I take her hand, feeling the warmth of the wedding ring. And it led me to a real life, to real love. Somewhere in Boston, Ashley is still trying to restore her social standing. Brian serves his sentence, his financial empire in ruins. But it doesn't matter anymore, because truth, however bitter, sets you free and gives you a chance to start anew. I watch the sunset and think about how strange life is. Sometimes you need to lose a fake family to find a real one. Go through betrayal to learn to trust again, and let go of the past for the future to fill with meaning. My phone vibrates in my pocket. A message from David. Final case closed. All assets returned to investors. Brian's case officially concluded. I delete the message without responding. It doesn't matter anymore, because vengeance and justice are different things. Vengeance destroys the soul, but justice gives you a chance to build something new. Dad, Sophia calls. Come join us. Emily wants to announce something. I smile and go to my family, my real family, because love built on truth is stronger than any blood ties, and that's the only truth that really matters. Back in Boston, I hear Ashley still struggles to piece together her shattered reputation in high society. Brian continues his sentence. His once mighty financial empire, nothing but dust. But none of that touches me anymore. Because truth, no matter how bitter its taste, has the power to set you free. It offers a chance to begin again, this time on solid ground. As I join my family at the table, I can't help but marvel at life's strange twists and turns. How losing what you thought was perfect can lead you to something genuine. How betrayal can teach you the true meaning of loyalty. How letting go of a carefully crafted lie can open the door to authentic happiness. The sound of laughter fills our home. Real laughter, not the polite chuckles of society gatherings. Emily's hand rests protectively on her belly, already showing signs of early pregnancy. Sophia's eyes shine with excitement as she describes a complicated procedure she observed. Jason's quiet confidence as he discusses his research no longer mirrors Brian's arrogance, but reflects a genuine passion for healing. And Ethan's smile finally reaches his eyes. To truth, I raise my glass, looking at each face around the table, not searching anymore for traces of another man's features, but seeing them for who they truly are. My children. not by the accident of biology, but by the deliberate choice of love. To family, Samantha adds, her hand finding mine under the table, the real kind. The setting sun paints our dining room in shades of gold, and for a moment, I'm struck by the simple beauty of this moment. No pretense, no carefully maintained facades, just truth in all its imperfect glory. This is what victory looks like, I realize. Not the destruction of those who wronged you, but the building of something authentic from the ashes of deceit. Not in the punishment of betrayal, but in the triumph of honesty. As the evening winds down and the children begin to leave, each to their own lives, their own truths, I stand again on the terrace. The Pacific stretches endless and dark before me, its waves a constant reminder that life, like the ocean, keeps moving forward. Behind me, Samantha wraps her arms around my waist, and I feel the solid reality of her presence. Thank you, I whisper, though not sure if I'm speaking to her, to fate, or to the truth itself. For what? She asks. For showing me that sometimes losing everything is the only way to find what's real. Inside, I can still hear the lingering echoes of family laughter, real laughter, true joy, the kind that can only come from living in truth, no matter how hard the path to get there. And in this moment, I know with absolute certainty that while lies may build mansions, only truth can make a home. While deceit may create the illusion of family, only honesty can forge bonds that truly last. This is my victory, not in revenge, but in renewal, not in destruction, but in rebuilding. A life authentic and true, where every smile is real, every word sincere, and every bond strengthened by the power of choice rather than the accident of birth. The stars begin to appear over the Pacific, and I realize that this moment, this family, this truth, this is what I was meant to find all along. And though the path here was painful, every step was worth it. Because in the end, truth doesn't just set you free, it leads you home.